Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of The Real Podcasters. This is a weekly podcast where we discuss all things movies, TV shows, video games and a bunch of other things in no particular order. My name's Regan as ever and I'm joined once again by my frankly should have been incarcerated co-host. It's Dan.
Oh, you're telling me. Hello, you sewer-dwelling lunatic.
Thank you. For reference, I was also going to go with slightly older co-host, seeing as Dan had his birthday this week. Happy birthday again, Dan, you decrepit thing.
It's about as old as the pyramids, me.
I could have sworn that you were the pyramid.
Yeah, I'm one of the blocks from the pyramid.
One of the blocks from the pyramid.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for tuning in to this week's episode. We really do appreciate it. Last week we spoke about A Quiet Place.
A non-talky place.
Yeah, one of the slightly better horror films that come out of the last couple of years, I think it's safe to say.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, and this week we're going to be delving once again into a little bit of horror in video games. My Achilles heel, as it turns out. This week we're going to be discussing the 2013 horror game, not film, thank goodness, Outlast, which Dan had recommended to me many a time, and I have actually finished. Unlike that other one that I'm not going to mention, you can listen to that one. Seriously, it was fun to talk about it. It was fun to talk about it. It wasn't fun to play it. Immediately, Dan has a bit more history with this game than I do. I mean, I think you've played through it a couple of times, I think.
Bloody hell, well, I first played it as just like a trial at somewhere, and I just watched like footage of it, and I thought, I'll give that a try. When I did eventually give it a try, it took me a while to figure out the mechanics and basically just don't get caught. And then played it 3 times all the way through, and I still haven't done it on the hardest difficulty. I'm not gonna. That is just, the game is already quite psyche breaking, and I really don't need a difficulty where if you're caught you die instantly and then you go right to the beginning again. My already fractured, cracked psyche don't need that.
See, I'm just really glad that Nightmare mode on Alien Isolation doesn't do that, because if it did, I wouldn't have done it 6 times.
Yeah, at least that one's a little bit more forgiving.
Somewhat, yeah. So yeah, as I said, I have actually finished this game. So, Dan, would you like to give us a brief synopsis of what the bloody hell is going on in this perfectly normal asylum? It's absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with it at all.
That became, like, absurdly British. What's going on at your mountain asylum, eh?
What on earth is going on here, Mr. Michael Caine? Don't do that. Don't do it.
Oh, no.
You see, Miles? No, you see, I can't. I have a stammer. I can't do it.
Miles.
Don't do it, Dan. You don't. Jeez.
If you're seriously considering going to Mount Massive Asylum, you should hear the rumours surrounding the Wall Rider. Deep underground of this insane asylum, there is a boy with supernatural powers,
Again,
wreaking havoc through this asylum. And I should warn you, every bugger is trying to kill you.
every single bugger.
Yeah, that's basically the plot. You're a journalist. You decide, you know what, this is going to be my career-defining story. So he goes to this insane asylum. Turns out that it's basically overrun with lunatics who just want to kill you in the most horrific ways. And it turns out there's a secret research facility underneath the asylum where they've been experimenting on patients, and there is this one known as the Wall Rider who is basically just a git. And possesses and does all these creepy things in the shadows because he's just a git. And he just can't let Miles have his story, can he?
No, of course not. Obviously, spoilers for this entire game. Of course, we are going to be delving into a fair amount of this. So, similar to something like Dead Space and a few other horror related games. I rage quit on this game about 2 years ago. In chapter 1, I couldn't quite hack it. I was stuck in the basement. It was dark, it was spooky, and there was a guy with a baseball bat. Doesn't happen very often, but my god was I absolutely horrified. I was like, no, I'm not doing this. Screw this in its absolute entirety.
That's funny because my little sister tried to play it, and she got to she didn't even get to the first pigging chapter. She literally got to the part where you're in the courtyard. Like, this is literally Miles getting out the car, going to the asylum, going into the room, and the big dude, we'll call him, we've come up with many names for him, but the big dude rocked up and she turned the Xbox off. Literally just never ever played it ever since.
No, I clearly had the game for a very long time because on the Xbox dashboard when you're going through the games, there's still the little gold symbol along the bottom left because I got it while it was on games with gold back in the day, but it must have been years ago because, games with gold hasn't been a thing for a very long time, and I don't think Outlast has been on that
just
for a very long time either.
Xbox Game Pass and everything now.
So, yeah, when I first booted it up again, I think it was late last year, early this year, it did say it was about February 2022, because I'd only played it for about an hour, and then was like, no, just forget that.
Nope.
Absolutely. But I think as well, because, in terms of the setup, it did sound very much just like, okay, this is just basically Resident Evil, plus every single asylum you've ever heard of in a horror film. But when I actually got into the swing of things and stopped dying constantly,
repeatedly,
there wasn't any turbines this time though, which is good. There wasn't random turbines and stupid tentacles.
So how's your progress going, Regan? Well, I've just burned to death in a fucking turbine. I'm golden.
Thankfully
just like
there's
no turbines. There's just a guy built like a turbine.
He is built like a turbine and is killed in a turbine. Yes, well,
irony.
I know the ironing is delicious, but no, to be honest, as the game progressed, I was enjoying it a hell of a lot more. And then by the end, I was like, you know what, this is pretty great, actually. Considering I had done really well to avoid spoilers, much like with something like Dead Space, I had not a clue what was going to happen when it's like, okay, now...
I would have thought you would have run into spoilers, considering it's a game from, 2013.
No, I honestly had absolutely no clue. As I say, I assumed it was just your generic asylum thing, because considering how big the actual crew was making this game, I'd assume that's all they'd be able to do. But no, it suddenly devolves into science fiction, and I was absolutely there for it. But not only that, I think the atmosphere alone was extremely effective, and I was very much getting Alien Isolation vibes of I am absolutely screwed every single time I go around a corner, because at least this time, at least with Isolation, there are 2 options for villains, well 3. This one there's 10, and I'm like, I don't know which one it's gonna be. It's just gonna be a Russian roulette of which character am I gonna have to run from this time. And it was really effective. I was always checking the shadows and windows just in case I'm being watched, because half the time there's no big jump scare, they're just watching you through a window or just running away, and it just works so well for the tension. It's absolutely tension filled. I was legitimately scared at points, which
I'm very surprised
really
I haven't
good.
suffered a cardiac arrest playing that game.
I'm also surprised because
It's always one bloody bit that
keeps.
keeps getting me, and as I've mentioned, I've played this game 3 times. There's always one freaking bit that keeps getting me, man. It's that bit where you go into the cell block and you've basically got to find an alternate route up to wherever, and you go up and then there's just some prisoner in the dark just going back and forth on a wall that's scrawled with text scrawled in blood. It always gets me. It's not the big dude, the big hulking dude in chains chasing me, or the mad doctor. No, it's just the dude just playing tic-tac-toe on the wall.
It is literally that on the wall, isn't it? No, to be honest, the amount of times I did just see one of the inmates and thinking, there is a 50-50 chance that you're going to chase me, or you're just going to stand there and do nothing, and I don't know which one I prefer.
And just babble nonsense, yeah.
At this moment
it's one of the
in time.
2 options, really.
Yeah, exactly.
It's babbling nonsense or babbling your brains in.
Well, I can definitely agree with you on one thing. There is absolutely not a single chance on this planet while it still exists in orbit around the sun that I'm going to do insane mode even once.
Nah.
Like, screw that.
I find the game challenging enough even on normal difficulty. So,
which is what I did on.
Yeah, so, kind of shows that how frustrating but challenging it is.
It's frustrating, but it's the good kind of frustrating because, unlike with Dead Space, even though I know we differed on this, I felt a great deal of achievement and accomplishment when I got through a thing. Not just because the little achievement thing pops up at the bottom when you eventually get through a fucking chapter, but it actually felt like I've actually done a thing. As opposed to, oh, thank God I'm done with that. I never had to do it again. Even though I did. So, in terms of the history of the game, how much do you know about the history of this game in terms of its development?
Absolute bottle.
Thank goodness. That makes me look like a walking, talking encyclopedia once again. So, this is the first game from the studio Red Barrels, which is just a hilarious title, frankly. It just sounds stupid. Made over the course of 14 months with... Do you want to take a guess as to how many developers were actually on this team?
I'm going to take a wild guess and guess like 20 odd.
Less.
Okay. 15.
Less.
10.
Less.
5.
Yeah. 10.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think it's quite remarkable what they could actually do with a team of 10 people. That really says a lot.
Yeah, I mean,
that
considering
being said,
most games nowadays have, well, an entire department just full of devs, don't they?
Exactly. And they couldn't actually get funding for a large portion of the development time, at least until the Canada Media Fund pledged 1.36 million Canadian dollars, which, even by that account, doesn't sound like a lot.
No, again, compared to like most games nowadays, you're talking much more than just the odd million.
So the game was eventually released in September 2013 on Steam, and in 2014 for a variety of other platforms released at the time. Didn't come to the Nintendo Switch until February 2018.
Wait, it's on Nintendo Switch?
It's on Nintendo Switch.
That is terrifying. Imagine sitting in your bed, middle of the night, and playing that.
Yeah, I'm envisioning the Switch falling... Well, either falling out of my hand or being thrown across the room. I don't know which one I'd prefer.
One of the two.
What?
Knowing you, probably the other option. The second option.
Knowing my luck, you should be glad that Dead Space isn't available on the Switch. Unless it is.
Yeah, because then I'll get like a photo sent of me with like a Nintendo Switch just sticking out of the wall.
So, as of 2016, Outlast sold over 4 million copies, and as is pretty evident, game received really strong reviews from critics and audiences. Scare factor, the setting, the gameplay people liked. Criticised the character models and the lackluster lead character, so we will get into that. And of course, we did get the Whistleblower DLC, which I'll ask Dan about in a bit, because I didn't play it. And there's Outlast 2, which... Once that goes down in price, because I think it's offensively expensive, we'll probably cover it next year. But of course, we are talking about this one because of the Outlast trials, which I still know absolutely bottle
I don't know
about.
a thing. I just saw it pop up that it was going to be like a cooperative version. I mean, you can do it single player as well, but you can do it with your mate as well. I was like, oh, that's interesting. So you get to run away from potential lunatics as a duo rather than yourself.
So that means we're going to have to do a special mini-sode where we just capture the gameplay of us running away from everything.
Yeah,
I like the
probably.
sound of this. I do really like the sound of that. So, in terms of the principal character, you're playing as Miles Upshaw, a freelance investigative journalist, because that's the only kind of journalist you get in these things anymore.
Of course.
Who was given a tip-off about the mysterious Mount Massive Asylum. Seriously, who the hell named that? They should be incarcerated in that asylum. They probably
were, to be honest.
I think it would be a really great Easter egg if even the developers thought it was a stupid name. So added in like an Easter egg where one of the character models looks like the developer who came up with the name of that, and he's just locked in like a solitary cell and he's not allowed out. Because that's exactly what I do, just out of
Just
pure
the
spite.
name of the asylum just scrawled on blood all around the cell.
I named Massive. I named Massive. It can be like Bart Simpson at the beginning of every single episode of The Simpsons with the bloody chalkboards.
Yeah.
So he goes to the Mount Massive Asylum, where rumours are of inhumane experimentation on its patients are running rife, and upon entering the asylum, Miles finds bodies scattered everywhere and the patients running amok. Just a classic asylum. Again, this is just every asylum in anything ever. There's never a nice one. There's never a fun one.
Yeah, I'm yet to see like a asylum-filled horror like trope film where everything's just hunky dory. Like there's no patience on the rampage. It's just like, oh hi. It's the most like peaceful, tranquil setting ever. It'd be a very short film.
I mean,
It's like, there's nothing on here. Bye.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So, game is told from a first-person perspective, so you never actually see Miles' actual face or appearance. I don't think you do. You might see him in like a reflection or something at the beginning. I can't remember. It was years ago when I first played the beginning.
Not that I remember. No.
No. I mean, I can't really say much about Miles as a character because he is very much just the audience. There's absolutely nothing to him.
Yeah, it's like the Halo thing, isn't it?
Except they haven't tried to adapt Outlast into a TV series where Miles keeps on taking off his helmet. I didn't finish watching Halo Season 2, as you can probably tell. I don't really care. So, yeah, as I say, there's not much to Miles as a character. What you get is the setting, or at least the main story. So, yeah, it is initially set up as just like your typical lunatic asylum type deal. And given such a small development team, I wasn't like expecting much more than that. At least up until the actual final chapter, and then you just keep on going further and further down the lift, and you're like, are we just going to a cave system? Is it just going to be going back and forth? Oh no, it's like
Have I
Area
entered
51.
the Batcave?
Now that is a hell of a crossover.
Oh,
Out
you
bat.
see, it's just a conspiracy and a half.
It
Like
is exactly.
Wayne Manor is secretly Mount Massive. It's just all a brilliant cover scheme.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of like how it deals with the tension and the scares, it's as I said, there's a real sense of alien isolation here, which is ironic given that technically this game actually came out first. But it's very similar to that one. There is nothing you can do. Like, the only time you can kill any of the inmates is in a cutscene, so it's got absolutely nothing to do with you.
Oh yeah,
It's
like
just all
you aren't directly involved with it. It's just how it plays out in a cutscene.
But I do really appreciate that, because at the end of the day, Miles is just a journalist. I'm not expecting him to be Rambo, as entertaining as that would be in my head. It's like, right, I'm not assuming there's a lot of inmates here, but I do have the bazooka.
Yeah, it would be a very, very different game if we had like a Sylvester Stallone Rambo just take over this asylum. It would be a very brief game, I think.
Or just be like the bazooka man from Lego Indiana Jones and just blow up everything in sight. It's like, I'm not taking any prisoners, literally, in this case. I mean, the opening segments of the game are still really effective, like even when you're just navigating around the asylum, and there's just a few inmates just kind of just watching you, and even at that point I'm starting thinking, right, I'm probably going to hate these guys just immediately, because I really don't know if they're just going to start chasing me or if they're just going to keep on watching me through most of this game.
It's kind of got to a point now where I'm struggling to remember, like, when you see ones that are just stationary watching you, I'm like, I can't remember if these guys chase me or not.
I actually forgot that you see, I think it's Dr. Martin who's trying to keep in contact with you through the game. You do actually see him at the very beginning in one of the windows as you come up to the asylum, which I think is quite cool. It's a bit like the random times that you see the alien, just in random moments, and you're like, I don't know what to do here. It's just sort of
there's always
by.
just something in the shadow.
In terms of tension and terror, dealing with the generators in Chapter 1, as I've, briefly alluded to, as to the reason for my initial rage quit, because I could not hack it. It was pathetic. Regan was terrible at it.
In truthfulness, I think it is probably one of the hardest parts of that game. is definitely the generators, and it seems very unforgiving that it's just within the first like chapter or so.
Well, I can remember talking to you about it when I started.
To sort it out at first, like, because I kept dying to the git with the baseball bat.
Well, that's because I can remember getting in touch with you at one point, being like, "Okay, I'm stuck in this basement. What do I do?" And you were like, "What chapter are you in?" I was like, "Well, I'm hoping like 2 or 3." And then I start describing it, and you're like, "Regan, you're not even halfway through 1 yet." And I'm like, "Oh, for God's sake!" and then I remembered that's why I rage quit, because I thought that I'm not doing this for 7 chapters. Screw it, just forget it. But then, considering how much I struggle with Dead Space, I'm like, no, I'm gonna have to finish this. I'm gonna have to, otherwise it's just funny. I've got to
push myself.
Exactly, yeah. So, I mean, that sequence I was just stuck on forever. Chapter 3, though, I think being chased by Crazy Dr. Fuck Off, as I've now affectionately called him, because I was constantly told him to fuck off.
Crazy Dr. Snip Snip.
Unicky Snip Snip from Pirates of the Caribbean. Asylum of the Caribbean.
Dr. Finger Snippy Snip.
Oh, spooky. I mean, he is basically the Joker, and I don't like it. He's just constantly chasing you, but like properly chasing you, and it is like, especially considering, full disclosure, I didn't realize there was a sprint button until chapter 3. Hence why I kept on dying so much. Because I thought, right, I'll just walk away. It's absolutely fine. They can't run. Oh no, they're running. Oh, he's literally inside my insides. Great, excellent. I don't know what to do. So I rage quit again, because I didn't know you could sprint.
And I'm dead yet again.
Dead again.
The joke is, like, Miles at first, he just seems like sort of calm, and then he's strapped into a wheelchair and then whisked into like a male toilet, and there's just like tools in the urinals and stuff. I'm just like, I'm starting to think this guy isn't a real doctor.
Yeah, I don't think he is at all.
If it's not the smashed in monocle on his face, it's the rusty shears in the urinal.
It's the rusty shears in the urinal. I mean, there's just a lot of gruesome imagery. I mean, I can say this currently because I did try and go back and play Evil Within recently. I gave up again. It's just not really grabbing for me.
I don't think you're gonna like Evil Within.
Well, currently all it is just bloody for bloody's sake, and I don't like it. It's just kind of.
It's not just that. It's just rage quitting for rage quitting's sakes.
Yeah, I can imagine. As I've already done twice. I think as well. Anything with is his name? Didn't we discover that his name was Chris Walker? The big,
yeah, like the most generic name
dude.
ever. Like the funny thing is with
Chris.
Evil Within, right? Like when you get enemies, they're called something like sinister and scary, and then you just get Chris. I mean, it's terrifying what happens to Chris, but
no, it's not terrifying. It's the most satisfying moment in a horror game in years.
Oh, it is. It is just.
It's like, that guy has got to be gone now. There is no way that you are surviving that. There is no
shredded up into
from that.
Bloody granola.
Well, you see, I'd say there's no way back from that, but then I guess Halloween would probably do that with Michael Myers at the end of Halloween Ends, that we don't reference. Never. We never do. Dan's having a bit
Michael
of a
Mincemeat.
Michael Mincemeat. Mincy Myers. What about you? What's some of your key moments of fear?
Is even just the first bit where you're just making your way up to the asylum and you do the whole break and entry thing. Being an investigative journalist, you don't care about rules.
Absolutely not.
And you encounter Chris for the first time and you just see that chunky, mutilated face, and you just think, you are just going to torment me to the end of days, aren't you?
Yeah, he is.
Mm-hmm. I'd probably say the generator bit as well, but I think it's sort of toward the end of the game where you basically have to turn off you've got to turn on the sprinklers in the cafeteria,
Oh, Jesus.
And you're basically doing the same thing, but you've just got to go find different like pubs and stuff like that. But it's not just Christopher Walker; it's the other dudes as well.
You're making it almost sound like the person who's chasing you is actually Christopher Walken.
Well, he doesn't walk.
As entertaining as that would
Christopher
be.
running.
Christopher running, yeah.
Christopher
Christopher
running,
jogging.
Christopher sprinting. Christopher
trying.
sprinting, gonna stamp me sculling.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, I can remember being stuck with the sprinklers for a very long time as well.
I think, honestly, the worst part was the sewer one for me. I thought that was just a little bit more terrifying considering how claustrophobic it is.
Yeah. Yeah, the sewer, I think I was stuck on for a little while, mostly because I did just keep on hiding in the bottom of the sewer, just waiting for him to bugger off. But then
Yeah, I ended up
wouldn't.
just like going in the little crawl spaces and just waiting for him to bugger off somewhere else.
But also because I did keep on getting lost as well, especially
Yeah.
down there, because it's like, I don't know which one I'm supposed to go for first. I feel like there's like a right way of doing this, not just
There probably
just
is,
do it
but I've
however you
always
want.
just done it in. I'll just go to the one that's furthest away so I don't have to worry about whatever comes next.
Exactly.
I'd probably say the creepy Father Martin, I'm going to say. Marin, I don't know what his name is. He's just creepy as hell. The first encounter with the two naked dudes is just freaky as hell.
Yeah,
And they're just
at that
casually
point, the
having a
character models are
conversation
pretty
about
well done.
gutting you like a fish in front of you. I'm like, I'm right here. You could do it
Just
a
like
little bit more
imagine if-
discreetly.
Yeah, just imagine if Batman Arkham Asylum was like this.
I mean,
Picture it.
if it was just some
Inmates
like
when-
Boston accent thugs. It's the journalist.
A journalist? Hell nah.
I must say that bit where you're navigating your way through the cell block, it took me ages to click on that you have to basically go outside, otherwise you keep dying because they're just in the shadows stabbing you to death.
Yeah, I can remember I'm sure there's like one of the corridors, and like they just come through, and there's absolutely nothing you can do, and I didn't know about the window, like right next to me.
It took me ages to click on that. Oh yeah, you should probably go out the window, and they're like, it just vanished. Where's he gone?
Oh my goodness, he was just there. Gone very British again. Whoopsie.
God, it's a bit odd, isn't it, Jeremy? He done vanished out of plain sight, he did.
God damn it. Obviously, we'll discuss the ending before we get into the other stuff. As I say, I was not expecting it to go Area 51 / Batcave /
neither was
nanobots and crap like that. Like, especially when I was playing. I mean, when I was playing with my girlfriend was sat right next to us watching us, and even her face just sort of like dropped, just like, what the fuck is this?
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
this is an entirely different game.
It's a bit of a mindfuck, to say the least.
Yeah, and then some, but I really appreciate that, because I think that's what kind of helped me enjoy the game and appreciate the game a lot more once I finished it, because I thought, if it's just stuck in the asylum the whole time, it's like, I've seen this
It
sort
actually
of thing
feels
before.
like the collectible side of it pays off to some extent. Because then you're like, oh,
Yeah.
so this is what they were doing.
I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, yeah, I was collecting whatever documents I could find, but I was very rarely reading them, mostly because I didn't really want to pause when I was standing right
I
next
know
to a
I
corner that
read
might
ones that
contain a
appeared to me.
monster.
I know there was like the one about Chris Walker's profile, which was quite interesting.
That's why I didn't realize his name was Chris Walker, because I didn't read it.
And then there was like
I
the
didn't find
other
it.
like well-known inmates and things. So, I mean, I haven't done the collectibles because it's really annoying to, because it's not a game you can just like go to different chapters and get the collectibles. You've got to do it in one run. So you've usually got to start a new game and just go all the way through collecting everything.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd be prepared to play it again, just on regular mode again. Obviously, as I say, I'm not doing it on insane.
Oh, sod that.
I've got better things in my life to do than that. But yeah, it was interesting going with a sci-fi twist on the whole thing with the ghost that's constantly haunting you through the game. Which, granted, I didn't really know it was the ghost stuff until I think the courtyard, I'd completely forgotten that occasionally a ghost is like floating around in the background. I mean, the courtyard stuff was... I didn't like the courtyard, mostly because I think...
That's probably the freakiest bit for me, the courtyard.
Mm-hmm. But I think it's mostly because I think if I was playing it on the Xbox 360 when it first came out, or on the Xbox One, I think the rain graphics would have been slightly kinder, whereas these ones felt more like... You remember when the GCH trilogy first released a couple of years ago, and the rain was unviewable?
Yeah.
It's like that. I couldn't see a thing. Like, even turning the light... Even putting the flashlight on, pointless. But also because Chris Walker, I love calling him Chris, it's just stupid. Because Chris is walking around outside as well, and there is absolutely no way you can see him. And I'm like, well, if I can't see him, I'm hoping that means he can't see me. I don't really want to test this theory, though.
Christopher Dragon Me Feet Walker just happens to stumble in the courtyard you're in.
Yeah, exactly. Really annoying.
Bloody
But...
git.
Yeah, as I said, the sci-fi twist on the ghost I thought was really interesting. I don't know if this sort of thing is ever expanded on in Outlast 2 or...
Outlast 2 is just like a standalone thing. Nothing to do with Mount Massive, anything like that.
Right. I suppose that's fine. I mean, I actually don't mind them doing standalone something, because I think it'd be quite difficult to connect it up to this, especially given the fact that by the end, Miles gets possessed by Ghosty Ghost.
Ghosty Ghost.
And... Ghosty Ghost. I was going to call him Ghostface, but it's not really Ghostface at all.
Floaty face.
Yeah. And yeah, so he gets possessed and starts killing everyone, and then the end. And I'm like, okay, that's the only time I thought, could have done a bit better with the ending, but it does kind of leave at a point where it's like, you can't really continue this at all. Not unless you suddenly, in the sequel, playing as Miles, just killing everyone. So it's like that one mission in... the new Spider-Man 2, where after Venom rocks up, you can then just play as Venom and just kill people. And I'm like, wish I had a PS5 for this. Obviously, I just watched the game. I didn't actually play it. Damn it. But, as I say, with like the presentation of it, for a game developed by 10 people and released 11 years ago, this is still quite a good-looking game, all things considering, even with the character models being a bit... So. Yeah, I mean, the character models are quite, like, repetitive, but then you're not really looking at them, you're kind of just running from them, so
yeah,
it kind of gets away with it.
You're only really looking at the ones who are behind a closed gate that is definitely closed and locked shut.
Occasionally it is, and then occasionally there's like a chest of drawers you can put in front. Which I just love that as like a little inclusion of like, oh, you want to double lock this door? IKEA, clearly. Mount Massive Asylum has been shopping at IKEA for their cabinets. Not their doors, clearly.
Yeah, they just make you feel a little bit safer.
Somewhat, yes. Just like a little bit.
I'm fairly certain one of the achievements in the game is literally just you can't reload the battery throughout the entire game.
Oh yes, you can. I mean, here's the thing. I mean, that's potentially doable. I mean, I didn't realize until towards the end when I finally did run out of battery. There is still a little bit of light from it. I mean, not a whole lot, but there's still a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think as long as it's not on insane mode, which I really hope the achievement is unlocked past that, I think that would actually be doable, especially if you've done the game a couple of times.
It is actually insane mode as well. I could be wrong. There's definitely something similar to that with insane mode.
I'm really glad that I didn't agree to cover this game only after doing insane mode because, well, A, we wouldn't have much to talk about because we'd probably not get past the title screen without weighing ourselves with fear.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's Outlast. Oh, dear, puddle.
Puddle.
Keeping with gameplay as well, as I say, I do appreciate the fact that Miles has about as much skill as a toddler with the camcorder. It doesn't do anything. It's just like, eh. It's like, ooh, a scary thing. Record. Yeah, exactly. He can't fight or defend himself. He can only run, hide, and record. So basically, he's an influencer.
Yeah.
That sounds even funnier. Now
He's just
that
a
would have been a twist.
cinematographer with no survival skills whatsoever.
So he's a cinematographer. I'm not a cinematographer, so it's fine. If you're listening to this and you are a cinematographer and you are offended by that, shut up. Just run and hide and record.
But yeah, he's basically an influencer. He really is.
Yeah, he is.
Hey guys, it's Miles here, and I'm at the asylum.
You know, it's
as you can see, I'm being chased right here, and oh my god, I'm just freaking out.
Your accent is impeccable.
Yeah, well,
it's a pity it's not Michael Caine, the social media influencer.
that would just be too hard to do. Like, I'm trying to think of ways around it. It's just not possible.
Said Michael Caine. I'm trying to think of ways around it, and I don't think it's going to work. Oh look, there is a thing chasing me. Okay.
As you can see, I've just been chased by several lunatics. I'm now hiding in a shit-filled locker. Please send help.
Please send help. Again.
To my 3 viewers on Facebook Live. Please send help.
Michael Caine would have more than 3 viewers, I'm just saying. I'd be like, if someone found out, wait, hang a second, Michael Caine's doing a spot of urbexing.
Yeah, his influencer channel is just Caine uncovers it.
Caine uncovered. Uncovered with Caine.
Yeah. You see, the thing is, though, like, if you did have, like, Michael Caine, it would be like the self-narration of just him getting out of the car. My name is Miles, and I am an investigative journalist.
I have just opened the door to my car.
As you can see,
it's raining.
I've just opened the door of my 57 Cadillac.
57 Cadillac.
And I'm now
As in
walking
the year.
into the courtyard. I just narrating absolutely everything.
See, okay, so you either have Michael Caine, Morgan Freeman, or David Attenborough.
Well, if it was David Attenborough, I think he would just be like in the cell block just studying all the weirdos.
So he's Batman. Great. Attenborough, man. Battenborough.
And you can see here the inmate with his penis out, currently sketching art into the cell door there. A fantastic display indeed.
I believe it is what is known here as a mating call. It is not working. Because there's no one here.
God damn it.
What a detail.
Flips his penis around in an impeccable display to attract a mate.
Unfortunately for him, the only other person here is Chris Walker. And he is not interested in this.
You can see this inmate is trying to attract the attention of Miles, the reporter, who's just stumbled through the cell block here.
As this inmate attempts to do the helicopter, Chris Walker decides, I'm going to throw him into the sky and make him look like a helicopter.
Yeah, I was going to say it. It appears that this hulking brute has not taken kindly to the mating call.
Hasn't taken kindly, are you shitting me?
He just doesn't take kindly to anything, really.
I was going to say, I mean, like, if you cough like a mouse, he just chases you. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Did you cough
That
in my
guy
presence?
must have some serious hearing powers, because it's as soon as something involves turning one thing or the other off, he's there in the snap of a finger. It's like, how dare you?
Of which case, there is a lot of snapping of fingers and other assorted limbs
Oh
and
yeah,
stuff.
snapping of fingers, necks, heads, knees and toes, yeah.
Mm-hmm. As we get back after that random detour of David Attenborough investigating the Mount Massive Asylum, as I say, I do really appreciate the fact that Miles can just do very little, and I do really appreciate that. Although
I think that's why I appreciate this a little more compared to Isolation. I mean, granted, you can't really kill the alien until, like, the last second of the game.
And even then, you
it's in a
still
cutscene.
don't really. Yeah, exactly. But trying to keep on top of the camcorder batteries was just a nightmare. Like, I was constantly having to pause any progress and be like, right, I'm going to have to go back and find a battery because I've got nothing.
I found it the most unforgiving in the bit with the laundry, just as you're about to go up to Doctor cut your fingers off.
Oh my god.
Yeah, with the fuses and
laundry.
stuff. Yeah, that was quite annoying. It ended up getting to a point where I actually ran out and just had to, like, basically run back to the fuse box, put the last one in, and just pray I wasn't followed, because I couldn't see anything because I had no batteries whatsoever.
That's the thing, because it does encourage you to stay in the shadows, because odds are the people can't actually see you. And I'm like, yeah, but can they? Like, I don't really want to test that theory at any point in this game.
I did test it with, surprisingly, the scene I mentioned before with the bloody extinguishing the fires in the cafeteria, and you have like this, you've got this central room, and you've obviously got the rooms connecting to the sprinkler system, and bloody Christopher Dragon Me Feet Walker was on me pursuit as usual. So I decided, well, there's no locker nearby. Can I hide in the shadow? Yeah, you can actually hide in the shadows. You just can't put on night vision, because I think it clicks in that you see something, which makes sense, really. You know, you're going to see a little, like, camera light.
But also you sort of see, like, the reflection on Miles' face as well.
Yeah, exactly.
If we're being really realistic.
But yeah, you can hide in the shadows as long as you're, like, in some sort of cover. You can't just, like, sort of squat in the corner of a room.
I mean, before we delve into, like, our final thoughts on this game, you have played the Whistleblower DLC, haven't you?
I have, yes.
Okay, tell me about it, because I haven't.
Painful.
I probably won't. Well, yeah, I can tell. I can tell from your face. It's painful.
Right, okay, so
this is a prequel, technically, isn't it?
Yes. So basically, you're a employee of this corporation, and you're caught doing espionage, and you're thrown into the asylum, as a matter of fact, just as things are basically starting to hit the fan. And there is just some creepy 6-foot-tall dude who could actually be Christopher's brother, because he's a bit of a dickhead, to say the least.
And then some.
He's called the Groom, and he is very keen on marrying you. That's all I'll say.
I didn't realise there were marriage proposals in Outlast now. Interesting.
Oh, it's just freaky as hell. I think it's freakier than the game for a very short DLC, but it is infuriating. Definitely play it when you get the chance, and you'll see what I mean with it being a lot more freakier and definitely a hell of a lot more unforgiving.
Yeah, I'm picturing it now. It does sound quite unforgiving.
Yeah, it is just
not fun.
Yeah.
Nope.
I think you're actually involved in more chases than you are in the actual base game as well.
That's mental.
Yeah.
I mean, I do appreciate a DLC that can go above and beyond what your standard DLC can be. I mean, look at something like Undead Nightmare for the first Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah.
Like, that was that had no reason being as good as it was. Like,
yeah,
it was
a
really brilliant.
Game.
Well, maybe next year we'll talk about that.
Maybe.
Yeah, actually, we could do that. I'll not pencil it in yet, but we probably will.
Maybe.
I'll do that.
Maybe.
Maybe. Okay. I mean, I'm sure I'll catch it at some point. As I say, we'll probably cover Outlast 2 next year. I think that could be quite funny. But in terms of final thoughts, I mean, as I say, I rage quit on this game for about 2 years, because just I don't know what it is with horror games for me. It's just like, it's so.
I think the key with games like Outlast and Alien Isolation, like those survival horror games where you are very limited as to what you can do combat-wise, you've got to take a break. You've really got to take a break.
Yeah, whether that is for a couple of days, a couple of months.
I mean, usually for me, it's
5 years.
Like a day or so, not really like years worth. I mean, granted, it may as well have been for Alien Isolation, because that took a while.
Yeah,
it's still my longest playthrough to this day. I just remember this bloody bit when I was doing a playthrough of it ages ago, and you know the bit where you're in the courtyard and you've got to get to the female ward, and well, like you'll notice that you can pick out like key moments on the camera, like moments of interest, we'll call it. And that scene in the courtyard where Christopher Dragon Me Feet Walker decides, you know what? Hello again.
Hello.
I just remember him chasing me with that bloody string music coming in, and I was just ring around the roses, a pocket full of roses, like just singing that song, really panicking. But it was just getting even more and more chaotic as he was just getting closer and closer.
Oh, exactly that. Oh, that bloody courtyard.
I have never ever mashed my crouch button so fast in a game just to get into that little crawl space.
I'm sure I just pressed every single button possible on that entire controller.
Just get in the vent. Miles, become the worm.
Finishing this game and realising that, you know what, this is a really cracking game it was just one of the nicest ways to end a bloody playthrough of a horror game, especially one where I was going in thinking this is just quite samey, but no, in reality it's actually really damn effective, especially for an 11-year-old game.
Still one of the best horror games I've played.
Yeah, definitely for me, but that's only because it's one of the few that I've completed. So I can actually say in terms of like a ranking and stuff, because I did actually finish the damn thing. But yeah, that is our thoughts on Outlast. Spooky time in the Mount Massive Asylum. Sounds like an episode of Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, I think spooky time is
Cause it's terror time again.
Oh, it's worse than that.
Scooby-Doo on Mount Massive Asylum.
Well,
I would like to see that. Scooby-Doo versus Chris Walker.
Be a very violent episode of Scooby-Doo, I can promise you that.
I think it's what we refer to in the industry as the best episode of Scooby-Doo. But yes, thank you very much for listening to our thoughts on Outlast. We do hope you really enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed reminiscing about sewers and basements and people with baseball bats and crucifixes, which I completely forgot about the crucifix stuff and the weird religious.
Oh yeah,
crap.
it's just a fun-filled game for the family, you know.
Yeah, it is a family-filled adventure because everyone treats you like family and not everyone treats you like hell.
Yeah.
That got weirdly dark all of a sudden. I don't know why. Anyway, yes, so that's it for this week. Next week, we are still sticking with horror because we're going to be talking about a particular film from 2004. Dan's looking worried, as ever. I really appreciate the fact that you do check the schedule a lot, but then conveniently, whenever I discuss what's happening next, you're like, I don't know what this is. Yeah, clearly. No, we're going to be delving into... I don't know if it's controversial. Anyway, we're going to be talking about Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead for its 20th anniversary.
Yeah, that one.
Oh, yeah. So I'll probably have to rewatch it. It's been a couple of years since I saw it. So you can look forward to us talking about Dawn of the Dead next week. So we'll see you then. And until then, it's goodbye from Dan.
Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from me. Goodbye.